Welcome to the People Chronicles. I'm Jackie Hoffman, and today we are joined by Elaine McDevitt. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, on the People Chronicles, and I almost have to feel like I make a confession every single time we do one of these, the fact that you and I do not know one another. Is that true or false?
No, but you seem fun.
I'm fun. I'm fun. That's an understatement. So what we ask all of our folks that come in here to be interviewed for our listeners and viewers is, what do you want them to learn from your story today?
You know, I gave this a lot of thought, and with some coaching, no. I think I want people to know that it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know.
And now we're going to find out a little bit about you and what you do and what we will know by the end of our segment on the People Chronicles with you, Elaine.
Okay.
So tell us what you do.
Well, I have an odd set of titles. I am the CEO and Board of Directors chair at my family business called The Rose Corporation, but I also handle all the human resources work there.
And you have a family. Tell us
yes,
about
I
your family.
do. I've been married for about 23 years, and I have two kids. One's a junior at Mount St. Mary's, and one is a freshman at Westchester, and they're just great humans, and I'm very proud of them.
Now, explain to us, well, first of all, we want to know, are you a Berks Countyan?
No, I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That is good to know. And you made your home here in Berks County?
When my father moved here for a job when I was 13 years old, I moved here, yes.
And how did you become involved in what it is that you chose as your career path?
Mine was like I'm finding out a lot of people's paths. It was swervy and very, very different. I graduated from Millersville and went to live in Houston because I heard they had 6 radio stations and I wanted to work in, 6 television stations, and I wanted to work in television, not realizing until after I got my job and started there that really you're supposed to start in small markets and go to major markets. But through my ignorance, I didn't know. I was able to get this job, and I worked in Houston for 3 years and loved it. And then following that, I moved to Buffalo for 2 years, which was quite the change. Then when I moved back, I worked at the Artworks at Doniger's in Ephrata for about 3 years. And then my father, his business was growing. He had his own steel fabrication business called the Rose Corporation, and he needed some help with benefits administration and things like that. And I was ready for a more routine job because I had just gotten married. And so I thought, I'll do this until I have babies and stop working. But it didn't work out that way.
And how so?
Well, I worked in human resources for, I guess it was 12 years. And I learned a lot. I didn't even know really what human resources did before I worked there. And thank goodness the Manufacturers Association at that time had a certificate course, and I learned a lot. And then I got into some marketing for my dad. And as the company grew, I just had, as you do in small companies, I had the opportunity to dabble in a bunch of different things. And then on one fateful day on April 15th, 2004, my dad went to play racquetball after work, like he did 2 or 3 times a week for the past, 30 years. And he died. He died right at the Y on the racquetball court. And it was absolutely devastating to us because he was only 67 at the time. His father died when he was 98. So we all expected him to live such a long time. And it was my whole entire life changed. All of our lives at the Rose Corporation changed that day because my father was very much a dynamic person, very much a leader. And as with most entrepreneurs, there were a lot of systems and processes in his head, and we didn't realize that until we had to untangle everything after his death.
So this is where your job comes into line, and you have to say, I'm going to pick up the pieces, whether or not I have all of the answers, and this is my duty, and this is where I am supposed to be.
Well, I'm in the business with my husband and also my sister. And my mother did not work in the business, but of course she had an interest in the business. So really, it was all of us. But it was decided that I would take the lead role as chairman of the board. And that's where we started. And I got to tell you, one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I'm sure Julia Klein of C.H. Briggs is sick of me talking about, is one of the most amazing things happened. After my dad died, of course, we're totally shocked. We're totally, oh my gosh.
Sure.
Not only did my father die, but oh my gosh, this company, and there's 50, or at the time there was like 80 families wondering, wow, what's going to happen to my job? And my dad, while he had a lot of pieces in line, he had a very good credit. He had very good relationships with his customers and his vendors. He didn't have somebody there. We didn't have anybody there that knew to step into that position and keep the company going. I mean, a lot of small businesses are like that. So we were actually in the funeral line, and the process started with Julia Klein taking my hand and saying, Elaine, I've got a couple of your dad's business colleagues. We're going to meet, and we're going to help you through this. Could you imagine that? Here's a woman that runs her own conglomerate of businesses. She knew my dad from the business community. She had been a neighbor, but she didn't know me all that well. And wouldn't you know, that following week, she had a group of people together. John Connolly, who had been my dad's banker for many years, Al Weber of Tweed Weber, and herself. And we got together and we started down that path along with, the rest of my family. And it was, when I look back on it, I'm getting a lump in my throat just thinking about it. But it was one heck of a path.
And what a success story, and how you...
Well, almost 10 years later, we're still here. We have made a lot of positive changes, and I think to myself a lot, like, when my dad went on vacation, he called every day because he was worried. What would he think after 10 years we're still here,
And he's watching, and he's jumping around up there for joy, I'll tell you what.
I think he's just mostly shocked. Not so much for everybody around me, don't get me wrong. We have great guys at the Rose Corps. I'm just thinking for me, because for years he said, Elaine, I think you could run this business. I want you to run this business. And I'd say, no, Dad, I'm not cut out for that. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I don't know how to do that. And so it's just really funny how it all worked out.
But would you say that the strength that comes from inside, where you still have to worry when you wake up some days, or at least, 5-6 years ago, when it was kind of all fresh with you, even though you had the help from your sister and your husband, the fact that there could be a failure at some point. What will I do? How am I going to handle this?
Oh, my goodness. And, over the last 10 years, of course, we went through the worst recession ever.
Right.
We had to deal with situations that even my dad wouldn't have known how to do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, even my dad, who just seemed to know how to do everything, he wouldn't have known how to work with it. So we were constantly learning new things. And it was comforting to me at some points when there were situations where I couldn't have said, Dad, what should I do now? Because he wouldn't have known either. So I thought, okay, he would have had to do the same things I've had to do, which is reaching out to others for information. And, I've really learned in the business community here, there are so many people that are willing
Oh, absolutely.
to help and add their expertise genuinely. And, and that's another thing as you go through a situation like this, and I'm sure you hear about it a lot, you will never be able to repay those people. You will only be able to pay it forward.
Absolutely. And some of their little ideas are your biggest ideas and success stories. So, Elaine, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to find out about your involvement in the community and how you spread the word of good cheer all around to everyone else, and the good things that you do on the People Chronicles.